As soon as you hear that breathing, you know exactly what's up in the galaxy. Darth Vader is quite possibly the most iconic villain from anything ever. Spanning over 4 decades of Star Wars media, the Dark Lord of the Sith has instilled fear in the hearts and minds of many. Although always being presented as a fearsome foe, more recent Star Wars installments have really been raising the bar with just how scary Vader can be. From being an overpowered brute in the critically acclaimed Jedi Fallen Order to that corridor scene from Rogue One, Vader has been swimming around in the Nightmare Fuel wells lately. But what has been achieved of late with the character took a match to that fuel and blew up Vader's fear factor to almost as much as Alderaan. Oh, too soon? Elsewhere in the Star Wars universe, a new series was crafted to show a middle point in the life of legendary Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi, the mentor of the man behind the helmet, to segue Revenge of the Sith into A New Hope. With Ewan McGregor donning the robes for the first time since Revenge of the Sith, it was only right that his arch-nemesis should be Hayden Christensen donning the armour once again, along with the voice of James Earl Jones, of course. Christensen's performances in the prequel trilogy left little to be desired in several places, particularly in Attack of the Clones, though there were some elements there, and a lot of elements in Episode 3, that demonstrated his dark side potential. If anything, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was an opportunity for Christensen to show he can be an incredible Dark Lord and prove critics from the early 2000s wrong. That's just the theory going into the show. But what they achieved may very well be the scariest portrayal of Vader ever seen on screen. That third episode really had the blood of the fans pumping. Part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi pretty much acted as a horror movie with how Vader was handled. At the ending of Part 2, Kenobi learns that Anakin Skywalker is still alive, and we get our first proper glimpse of Vader without his helmet. Christensen, in the classic burnt skin makeup, being held in a tank with his glowing eyes beaming right out to the audience, connected the viewers once again to the dark side of the Force. The combination of Kenobi's realization and seeing Anakin's disfigurements was a double smack to the face that segued brutally into the next episode. Part 3 extends the general story so far, wherein Kenobi is tasked with finding and rescuing a kidnapped Leia Organa as a child. Some would argue she's Nightmare Fuel in herself, but yeah, that's a different video. This journey leads them to a mining planet named Mapuzo, en route to a rendezvous point to make their safe returns to Alderaan and Tatooine respectively. However, via Vader's group of Inquisitors, Kenobi's location is tracked to Mapuzo, and thus Vader makes his way there. What happens from this point is truly horrifying. Firstly, just the way Vader is presented here. He's shot in mostly darkness to amplify his ominous presence, and nobody wants to go anywhere near him, not even his own troops. Vader dominated the space around him, and whenever he walks, he is isolated due to how vastly intimidating he is. Now, we all know Vader loves a good force choke now and again, but here he's more cruel than ever. While attempting to locate Kenobi, he tries to lure him out with some shock tactics. Using the Force, Vader breaks a guy's neck and drags an innocent woman through the dirt. It's bloody brutal hearing the screams of torment and agony from the bystanders, and how Vader uses their flesh and bones as tools to get to Kenobi. He couldn't care less about them. All he wants is Obi-Wan, while knowing full well he cares about innocent lives and will likely reveal himself to stop the torture. It's Star Wars villainy at its peak here. When running away into the open outskirts, Vader encounters Kenobi and fires up his lightsaber. Seeing it flicker and glow in the darkness, illuminating Vader's armor with red light, making him appear demonic. Oh, it's just badass. After a small duel, Vader performs perhaps his most ruthless offense ever witnessed in live-action Star Wars. Remember, killing younglings was off-screen. Lifting Kenobi from the ground with a force choke, he scatters some flammable items across the ground, ignites them with his saber, and then force drags Kenobi through the flames, exclaiming now he will suffer. This is revenge for Anakin being burned alive at the Battle of Mustafar. Seeing Kenobi dragged across the ground through fire like that, also he can feel what Anakin felt, is characteristically evil of Vader. He is as villainous as villains come, yet even this shocked me and Star Wars fans fans alike, unlike any action seen from the character before. This one is personal, and that's probably why it was all the more shocking. Thankfully, Kenobi is safe to fight another day, but that doesn't mean Vader stops there. Oh no, just like Ben, he's only getting warmed up, and we see the results of Vader's actions at the start of Part 4. Being placed into a healing tank, we are shown comparison shots between Obi-Wan's and Anakin's scar tissue, so now Obi-Wan has a glimmer of insight into what Anakin went through on Mustafar, and it creates a further metaphysical link between the two. Sadly, Vader's hardly seen here, as once again, Leia is kidnapped and Ben has to rescue her, but a tracking device is placed onto their escape ship for Vader to pursue in Part 5. Which, in all honesty, is pretty anticlimactic. This is because, yet again, Kenobi travels to a planet. For plot reasons, Vader gets there and Kenobi escapes on yet another spaceship to yet another planet, while Vader watches aimlessly. So marks down there, but this isn't an honest review, this is a Nightmare Fuel, so I'll try and keep on track. The most interesting thing for fear factor in this episode comes from the flashback sequences where we see Obi-Wan and Anakin training pre-Revenge of the Sith. We keep cutting back to the fight where Anakin continuously ups his aggression levels against Obi-Wan. I find this scary because Anakin isn't anywhere near becoming Vader at this point, yet here we begin to see the early periods of where the Vader shift came from. His sheer rage and desire for victory at the risk of injuring or killing his master is rather chilling, knowing exactly what comes later. Like, you can see the hatred within Anakin begin to intensify. These scenes are echoes with a galaxy-altering ripple effect following them. However, with the narrative continuing, we also get several more scenes of just how OP Vader is. You think his strength in Fallen Order is mind-blowing? Here he can tow a spaceship in the middle of taking off back to the ground just from using the Force, which in itself is madness, but the salt in the wounds here is his fight against the Third Sister, now made the Grand Inquisitor, until the Grand Inquisitor suddenly comes back despite being dead. Sorry, not honest review, Connor, not. So while fighting Vader with her dual spinning detachable lightsabers, which screams, so what mental saber designs haven't we done? Sorry, again, Nightmare Fuel. So while fighting Vader, taking into account she herself is an incredibly skilled fighter, Vader is able to go most of the fight simply using the Force in a defensive manner, pushing the sabers away. It's crazy. She has 2 sabers, but he's still able to fend her off with his abilities, demonstrating just how powerful he is. But then after disarming her, Vader toys with her by giving her one of the sabers back and having a proper duel. He's given her a lifeline to prove herself as the better fighter, yet he still takes the piss out of her and disarms her again. Shame he simply stabs her, as I was honestly expecting the Dooku beheading. That would have been such a good throwback. Alas not, but it was a great scene anyway, and once again shows off Vader's nightmarish power. So with Kenobi and Vader in one more cat and mouse chase going into the finale, how much Nightmare Fuel is there left in this series? Right off the bat, Vader's ruthlessness carries across with a nice visual nod to the opening of A New Hope. Lasers firing on all cylinders trying to pick off the fleeing ship. Vader's remorseless nature is apparent here. To him, that ship only contains Obi-Wan. He's what he's shooting at. To him, the countless other innocent lives on board trying to reach safety aren't of any value. They're simply expendable cannon fodder so long as Kenobi dies. And that really does finely tune Vader's mentality. Life is worthless to a point where if an obstacle breathes and walks, it can still be removed. It's chilling how little thought he gives the situation here. But Kenobi's opposing sentimentality leads him to divert Vader to a nearby planet where battle can commence. This was what we've all been waiting for. An excellent duel choreographed to perfection. A solid middle ground between the high-octane acrobatic fight on Mustafar and the aged static fight on the Death Star. It was a fantastic back and forth with both sides giving their all. In Nightmare Fuel terms, Vader pulls off some mind-blowingly powerful tricks. He uses the Force to make the ground collapse, and in true Thanos style, he launches multiple boulders on top of Obi-Wan Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is barely able to make it out alive, drawing deep down on his connection with Leia to cast away the rubble. But when he retaliates with a near-identical attack, Vader is able to withstand the rocks. It's like he's in a paintball fight, not getting continuously pummeled with heavy boulders. Vader's strength by comparison is notable here, but through his passion, Kenobi does end up coming out on top and carves open a large section of Vader's helmet. Here we receive my personal favourite Vader scene from this series. Even under terrifying heavy makeup, looking through glowing eyes and having only half of his face to act with, Christensen delivers, in my opinion, his greatest performance here. You can just feel his rage, hatred and evilness emitting from his expressions. In this spine-tingling exchange, he reveals that he killed Anakin Skywalker, no one else. He pretty much states that there isn't a single portion of Anakin's morals left inside. Vader has completely taken over, so that now he's 100% the most terrifying version of a Sith Lord possible. Seeing Christensen deliver this speech gave me chills and wrapped up the horrifying nature of Darth Vader in this show. In hindsight, this is up there with the zenith of Vader's outings. He not only displays some of the most dangerous attacks in his moveset, he is at his most cold and unloving. Every single person he encounters can die or be tortured at any given time, and his methods for doing so are more cruel than ever. Whether looking at the expressionless helmet or at the disturbing glare beneath it, Darth Vader is pure distilled nightmare fuel in Season 1 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is this the end of the line for this limited series, a one-off season, or is there potential for another? And what else do you think Vader has up his armour for the galaxy's turmoil? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then force choke that subscribe button till it changes from Vader Saber Red to Vader Skin Grey. I'm Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and remember, may the fuel be with you, always.